We're the place that takes those, classic business books off the shelf and really puts them under the microscope for today, for 2025.
Uh-huh. And this time, we are tackling a big one, maybe the big one for a whole generation of managers. Jim Collins' Good to Great.
Right, that book was everywhere when it came out.
It really was. Published back in 2001, became almost required reading. So our mission today is basically a 2025 reality check. I mean, think about everything that's happened since that research wrapped up.
Oh, absolutely. Post 9/11 world, the huge financial crisis, the complete digital transformation of, well, everything.
Exactly. So the world is fundamentally different.
Which leads us to the core question for you listening. Is this famous blueprint for building a great company still something you need to read? Or, honestly, are we looking at ideas that have kind of expired?
Yeah, let's figure out what still works and what maybe doesn't hold up anymore.
Okay, so where do we start? Maybe a quick refresher on what the book actually said back in 2001.
Good idea. So the foundation was this massive 5-year study. Collins and his team looked for American companies that made this jump, this leap, from just being good, average performers.
Genuinely great ones.
Right.
And sustained it.
And sustained it, yeah, for at least 15 years. That was key. And they boiled down what made these 11 companies special into 5 core concepts.
Okay, and these concepts became like instant business jargon, didn't they?
Pretty much. So first up was level 5 leadership.
Ah, yes. The humble but driven leader. Not necessarily charismatic, but incredibly determined. Focused on the company, not themselves.
That's the one. Then, number 2 was the principle they called first who.
Meaning, get the right people on the team before you figure out your strategy. People first, then direction. The bus analogy.
Exactly. Get the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and the right people in the right seats. Then figure out where to drive it.
Then there was the Hedgehog Concept. This one always seemed a bit abstract.
It can be. It wasn't about just being good at lots of things. It was about finding that one thing your company could be the absolute best in the world at.
Like the intersection of what you're passionate about, what drives your economic engine, and what you can uniquely do better than anyone else. Intense focus.
Intense, almost obsessive focus.
Right.
Fourth was building a culture of discipline.
Okay, so systematic, accountable, results-driven. Everyone knows what they need to do and does it.
Uh-huh. Disciplined thought, disciplined action. And finally, number 5, the one that really dates the book, perhaps, technology as an accelerator.
Right. Technology helps, it gives you a boost, but only if your main business is already sound. It wasn't the foundation itself.
It wasn't the savior, just, yeah, an accelerator. So those 5 ideas really shaped how people thought about management for, well, a couple of decades.
Okay, so that's the 2001 blueprint. Now let's fast forward, 2025. How do these pillars hold up today? Which ones are still standing strong and which maybe look a bit shaky?
Well, what the analysis suggests is that the people and culture stuff has actually held up pretty well, fundamentally. But, and this is a big but, how you apply them has had to evolve quite a bit.
Okay, like level 5 leadership. Humility and determination seem pretty timeless.
They are. That core idea, humble leader, strong will, that still resonates. But just being humble and determined isn't quite enough in, the digital age.
What else is needed?
Well, leaders today need additional skills. Things like serious digital literacy. They need to understand tech deeply. And they need to know how to manage teams scattered across the globe, often working remotely.
Yeah, I see that. So someone like Satya Nadella at Microsoft comes to mind. He seems to have that humility, that resolve, but he's also clearly driving a massive tech strategy. He understands AI, cloud, all of it.
Exactly. He's not just a determined servant leader. He's a technically fluent strategist. It's an evolution of the level 5 idea.
Okay, that makes sense. What about first 2? Getting the right people on the bus.
Yeah.
Still crucial.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe even more crucial now. Think about it. Today's bus is way more complex.
How so?
Well, teams are often global, across time zones. You've got freelancers, contractors, complex agreements. If you don't obsess about getting the right people and making sure they're aligned across all that complexity, the whole thing just fragments.
Right. Talent acquisition and alignment in a decentralized world is a huge challenge. Okay, and the culture of discipline. How does that fit with today's focus on, say, psychological safety, flexibility, agility? Seems almost contradictory.
It's definitely forced a rethink, or at least a broadening of the definition. Back in 2001, discipline might have implied, fairly rigid systems and processes.
Yeah, follow the rules, hit the numbers.
Right. Today, you still need that disciplined focus on results, absolutely. But it has to coexist with things like high levels of trust, genuine flexibility in how work gets done, and a culture where people are constantly learning and adapting.
So disciplined ends, but achieved through more dynamic, agile means.
Precisely. You need both structure and adaptability operating at the same time. It's a trickier balance.
Okay, so leadership, people, culture. They've survived, but
Hmm.
they had to adapt. They evolved.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Which brings us to the parts where things maybe haven't adapted so well, where the 2025 reality checks show some real cracks.
And this is where we see the biggest shifts, mainly around strategy and technology.
Let's start with the obvious one. Technology as an accelerator. That sounds quaint now, doesn't it?
It really does.
Kinda
Look, back in 2001, many big companies were still, figuring out the internet, moving core processes online. So, yeah, technology could give you an edge, a boost.
But today, in so many industries, tech isn't the booster rocket, it's the entire spaceship.
Exactly. Think about fintech, digital health platforms, generative AI companies, online education. For them, technology isn't just accelerating something else. It is the business. The tech is the revenue model.
It's the absolute core.
It's the core axis, yes.
Yeah.
If you still think of technology as just an accelerator in those fields, you're already obsolete.
Like blockbuster thinking faster tape rewinders were the answer to Netflix.
Perfect example. Netflix didn't accelerate Blockbuster's model. It completely replaced it with a tech-first approach. The companies that thrived in the last 10, 15 years didn't just use tech to do the old things faster. They reinvented what they did around digital possibilities.
That's a massive shift from optional add-on to existential core.
Yeah.
Okay, now what about the hedgehog concept? That intense, single-minded focus? You mentioned that's also struggling.
It is, yeah, and it seems counterintuitive at first, right? Because focus is generally good.
Well, yeah. We learned about the dangers of giant, unfocused conglomerates in the 80s and 90s. So why is intense focus suddenly a liability? Is the analysis saying companies should just dabble in everything?
No, not exactly. It's not suggesting reckless diversification. The issue is that the stability the original hedgehog aimed for, that's largely gone.
Because things change too fast.
Precisely. The pace of change, technological disruption, geopolitical shifts, pandemics, means that if you are solely focused on one very narrow thing, you're incredibly vulnerable. You're brittle.
So if that one thing gets disrupted, poof, you're gone. Like Circuit City, maybe?
Circuit City is a complex case, but yeah, that kind of vulnerability is the risk. Intense focus without adaptability can be fatal.
Okay, so what's the alternative? If not scattered and not rigidly focused.
The analysis points towards needing agility within your focus. Think about, say, Amazon, started with books, intense focus, but then rapidly expanded into e-commerce, cloud computing, streaming, all related but agile pivots.
Or Tesla. Focus on electrification and sustainable energy, definitely a core hedgehog idea there.
Yeah.
But they move fluidly between cars, batteries, solar, software, autonomous driving.
Exactly. They have a core purpose, but they demonstrate strategic diversity and rapid pivoting around that core. It's not just hedgehog, it's maybe hedgehog flexibility.
Hedgehog flexibility, I like that.
Yeah.
The hedgehog learned to dance.
Something like that. It has to be ready to move. So if Collins were doing the study today, the whole framing would likely shift. He wouldn't be looking for greatness built on stability and control as much as greatness built on transformation and speed.
So if we were to imagine a good to great 2025 edition, what would the key concepts look like? What's the rewrite?
Okay, well, first, level 5 leaders would probably be redefined or maybe even replaced by something like digital transformation leaders.
People who don't just manage stability but actively drive tech-fueled change.
Right. People comfortable with constant disruption who can navigate that. Then the hedgehog concept morphs into that hedgehog flexibility we talked about.
Keep a core identity. Know what you're fundamentally about, but be structured financially, operationally, to pivot fast when the world changes.
Exactly. And the biggest change, technology moves from being just an accelerator to being the core axis of the business.
It's central, non-negotiable.
Absolutely. And if you look at the companies often cited as great today, maybe a Shopify, a Tesla, OpenAI, ByteDance with TikTok.
Their success is completely intertwined with their technology, their platform, their algorithms.
You can't separate them. Their greatness is their technical architecture and their ability to scale it globally incredibly quickly.
Wow. Okay, so the underlying philosophy, leadership, people, culture still matters, but the actual mechanics of how you succeed look radically different in the digital age.
Radically different. And that brings us to a really important warning, a critical caveat that comes out of looking back at the original book.
Which is?
The time-bound nature of this kind of research. Management insights, even really good ones, often have an expiration date.
Right, you mentioned Collins looked for 15 years of sustained greatness. But what happened after that 15-year window for some of those original great companies?
Well, that's the tough part. Some of them declined significantly, and one, Circuit City, famously went bankrupt years later.
Ouch. So even the exemplars of greatness, based on that 2001 research, didn't all maintain it indefinitely.
Exactly. And it's a powerful reminder, isn't it? It shows that strategies and practices that lead to success in one era, under specific market conditions, well, they might not work, or might even be detrimental in another.
You're always fighting today's war, not yesterday's.
You have to be.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. The final takeaway for you listening is good to great. Still worth reading.
I'd say yes, but with critical perspective.
The core philosophy, the emphasis on disciplined leadership, getting the right people, building a strong culture, that foundation feels enduring, you still need that human element.
Absolutely. Those parts are foundational, but the specific strategies, particularly around how you leverage technology and how narrowly or flexibly you focus, those need a major update for 2025.
You need a new operating system running on that foundational hardware, basically. One built for digitalization, constant change, and agility.
Well put. It requires continuous learning and adaptation.
Which leads us to a final thought to leave you with.
Right. If even the best, most rigorous research on what makes a company great based on years of data clearly has an expiration date, if the strategies that defined success just 20 years ago are partly obsolete,
Then what does that suggest about the shelf life of your own professional knowledge and skills right now?
exactly. How often do you need to update your own operating system to stay relevant, let alone get ahead in this constantly changing world? That's something to really think about this week.
Definitely something to reflect on. We'll see you on the next deep dive.